I seem to be live. Okay, seems like my stream is working. I'm going to do something I haven't done before. Hopefully anybody finds this interesting. I am going to edit my stream now. I will edit this out later. Okay, so what I am doing today is I'm going to go through my process of memorizing a piece of music. Probably gonna limit this to an hour. That should be plenty of time. But my goal here is to have Packington's pound memorized by the end of the stream, or at least enough to make it worthwhile. Okay, or to demonstrate the technique. So first I'm going to do some sort of preliminary overview of it. So it's in drop D. There are no the key signature is not really written in there, so some form of D. Maybe it's maybe it's a little Dorian, or maybe it's I see a bit of D major there, maybe a Picardy third at the end there. I see a lot of going back and forth between the D and the A major, so D minor and A major. So typical 1-5 kind of stuff, pretty straightforward. I see some sequences here. I see that we have 3 sections. Yeah, so I'm just kind of giving it a quick overview here. And my general approach for memorizing music lately has been inspired by a few things that I read a while back. One was a quote from David Russell, where he talked about how he memorizes pieces from the end to the beginning. So the idea there being not literally backwards, but like in chunks from the end, working your way back to the beginning, so that as you're practicing the piece, as you're memorizing, as you're chaining things together that you have learned, you end up in a situation where you're constantly working towards more familiar material. Whereas, a more standard approach, maybe a little more naive, a little probably works great for lots of people, but didn't necessarily work for me. It was where you're starting at the beginning, or it didn't consistently work for me. When you're starting at the beginning, working your way towards the end, you end up playing the beginning a whole lot, but then maybe you don't play the end as much. So you end up in a situation where you know the beginning of the piece better than the end of the piece. So perhaps your comfort level decreases as you go through. So that's idea number 1. Idea number 2 is that I'm basically going to try to play it from memory from the beginning. And the way to do that is to break it down into small chunks that I can read understand how to play on the guitar, and then basically like I'm not looking at the music as I'm playing them. And then typically I just repeat those a couple of times. Some things will be, you know, instantly comfortable. Other things may take a bit of time. Last thing I want to say, I got this off of IMSLP. I know this piece is public domain because it's quite old. But the thing I just want to say is this notation was done by Stefan Apke, if I pronounced that right. And I've encountered his work a lot on IMSLP and have just generally been, you know, grateful for the amount of work that he's done. And these scores are generally, like every one that I've seen, has been very cleanly written, very readable, etc. It's kind of helpful to me right now because in order to be a distance from my camera and have my microphones in between, I kind of need it like large on the screen so that I can read it from this far away. So anyway, starting at the end here, so the very end of the piece is basically this D major chord. And that's, in and of itself, that's a pretty short chunk that already I'll probably never forget that if I remember nothing else from the piece. So that's kind of where I start on something like this. So in that last measure there, I see, you know, high A, 2 A's in a row, and then we've got this like D, A, E arpeggiated bass going, which is like starting on D minor, but again moving to to the dominant in A. So there's a thing I'm noting in there. I guess I'll just put my mouse down next to it is, you know, the little bar in there. So when I'm going through this kind of process, it's important to note. I guess what I want to say is it's like it's important to feel somewhat confident in the fingering of the score. Because you're kind of starting off by memorizing that as part of how you're playing it, and that's kind of typical anyway, but maybe it's sort of a special consideration when you're learning something this way, because like we've got this line going through here that ends on this D and A there. It's important that I start that on the fourth finger there, so that I'm in position to play the next part of the piece. And it's also important to play that because that's where I ended at the end of the previous phrase. So if I played that differently, like that's a valid way to play that in some context, but that doesn't necessarily work for this piece. So generally, if you have like a well-edited piece of music, just follow the fingerings, you'll be fine. When you have the sound of the music in your head, when you have it under your fingers, you can change things. Like that's like if you're a somewhat experienced guitarist, that's not that hard at that point. And I'm just saying it's good to have a sort of a trustworthy starting point. I feel like that's already pretty. Like that's a small enough chunk of music there. Small enough chunk of music that I was able to like remember that right away. Like it's very simple, and that's kind of the point of doing something this way. Like you know, you're doing it in small chunks. It should be small enough that like you don't have to be looking at the music in order to play it. Even if it's music you've never looked at before. Like I'm sure I've heard Packington's Pound at some point. I don't remember it in my head right now. That's why I picked this piece. I also picked it because it fits on one page, because I want to get through this in an hour, and I'm 10 minutes in, so I think I'm probably not going to, but it will illustrate the process for people. So anyway, I'll play that one more time, and then I will move on to the previous measure. All right, I said I would never forget that, and I've already done it wrong. So it's this like D, F sharp, D, D. All right. So the next phrase we got here. It's kind of funny. I didn't consider the difficulty of the piece. It's not really a difficult piece, but that's kind of an awkward thing to play there. So that this next phrase may take me a little more time. So I'm going to break it down a little more. So the last note of it is just like, I'll do the last two notes. So we've got. Line of the whole last three measures, like, and that's technically more than the bass line. It's multiple voices, but good enough for now. So the tricky part is this like stretch from the E to the B is it's certainly not comfortable right off the bat. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. So that bit on the bottom is basically keep that in mind. Just kind of that E minor arpeggio on top. All right, I'm going to review. Doing this live on camera, even though I'm pretty sure nobody is watching me. Stretch in there. probably, if I was playing this piece, I would use a capo. I would probably also be in a more proper playing position. This is not great for stretching, but I was trying to be informal about this, and I shot myself in the foot there. So. Feeling pretty good, so I'm gonna add the next next measure on there. In fact, maybe I won't even go with the whole measure yet. I'll do. I can use my cursor here to point out what I'm doing. All right, so I'm starting right there, and we've got B, C, and then back down to the B to start the next thing. So on the end of 2, I've got the B. So 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. And my bass line's going 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. For that little section there. When you're learning something this way, you'll definitely find that, like, as you get to the parts you've played more, they'll sort of, like, very quickly they should progressively feel more comfortable there, which kind of gives you a sense of familiarity, security as you're playing it. Sorry, I started over here now. And when I was talking about playing this with the capo, my capo was packed in a box behind me somewhere, so I can't rely on that at this point. As you get comfortable while you're learning it like this, you might naturally start playing it a little more musically when you're, like, less concerned with what the notes are, and you're just starting to, like, I feel like as you're moving towards something that is more comfortable and maybe naturally becoming more musically, it makes it easier to play the earlier part musically sooner. That's a theory, I'm not sure, but that's how it feels to me. All right, I'm starting back here. 20 minutes into the stream, I could theoretically get through the whole piece in that time. Maybe not, because, like, as I'm doing this back chaining thing, each repetition, as I learn another section, gets longer and longer. So maybe that won't work. But also maybe I'll talk less as time goes. so I'm already going to move on. But, I think okay, this next measure is pretty easy. It's just a little D power chord, melody walking up to the full D major, minor chord. So yeah, I picked a tune I'm not actually personally familiar with, which is not how I would normally do this. I just was honestly just looking through Stefan Apkar's script scores for something that was a page and looked simple. So if you already have a sense of how the music sounds, obviously that helps. Like I'm getting a picture of it in my head. I'm kind of remembering it from my student days. I haven't played it, but I think I have taught this to beginning students. Actually, maybe as an ensemble version. All right, do that again. Mistake in that second to last measure. I'm not going to worry about it. All right, backing up one more bar. Barring at the 3rd fret, little C major section goes into the D minor, into the A major, etc. Okay, on to the last and first bar of this 3rd section of the piece. What do we got there? We got a little F major with the A on top. This is a little bit of a modulation there. So F major. Like that progressions going through there. Interesting. So he's for anyone who's just happens upon this, just wants to know my opinion here. So he's got you using the 4th finger for both this F and this B flat. Which means you have to let go of that F before its full value. An alternative would be you could play it. I do that again. So you could play it with 2 and 3 on top instead of 3 and 4. It's a bigger stretch, maybe uncomfortable. You get the full value of the notes, but do you really need the full value of that note there? Like, I feel like the listener is going to have that. Like, if you have that F in mind when you're playing, the listener is going to have that in mind too when you play the next note. So I think you'll create the illusion of continuity there. Um, this piece would originally have been written in tablature, so there probably wouldn't even be note durations written in that explicitly as you have in modern notation. Um, so I think that would be open to interpretation anyway. And, even if, like, assuming this is a correct interpretation and it's okay to let go of that F there, it would really just make the score more complicated than it really needs to be in order to convey that. So I think, like, in my opinion, the written score, like, I really love notation, like, for scores to be very detailed, but, like, there's also an art in, like, how much is enough information, versus too much. Like, if you try to include everything, you also make it more difficult for the performer to do their own interpretation. Sorry, I missed my D there. Another F major, E minor, D. One more time without throwing myself off by talking. Okay, I'm a half hour into the stream, approximately. I think that's conveying the idea. I've been now by the as far as I've gotten here is I'm playing measures, playing from. I'm basically playing the last two lines from memory in a half hour. My general approach for a piece like this would be try to work out the whole piece in an evening. I'd probably take a break at this point and then come back and refresh my memory on this part a bit before moving on to the next. And yeah, that has been my approach to memorizing music quickly over the last 2 years or so. It's a more like, as a student early on, and I'm sure this would resonate with a lot of people, like, you just play something a lot and you get it in your head and then you get it memorized and then you're comfortable with it, and like for a while that's pretty good. As time goes on, you get older, maybe you want to have more repertoire because, like as a student you might be, depending on like how you're studying, like when I was studying, like I was in a performance class. Typically each student would play 1 to 3 pieces at the recital at the end of the class. Each class was like a master class style, so we might play other things along the way, but really we're just kind of aiming to have maybe 5 minutes of music per student for that recital to keep it from being endless. So, like to memorize 1 to 3 pieces over the course of a semester or something like that, that method of just like play it until you've got it works, um, until you have a memory slip or whatever. But as you get older, you want to have more repertoire. You are maybe, um, if you're a professional musician, you might be touring, traveling, teaching, etc. If you're not a working musician, you have a job like me, then you just don't have as much time to devote to this kind of stuff. So what do you need to do? You need to have like a deliberate method of implanting the music in your memory um, efficiently. Um, that is why I use this system. Um, I found it to be quite effective. Um, I would say over the last 2 years, I don't have my spreadsheet in front of me, but I think I've memorized about 20 pieces using this. I mean, it's certainly enough for a full recital if I wanted to. I have a method for maintaining that repertoire. I feel like that's still a work in progress, but it's worked pretty well just as far as like my memory goes. And at some point I'll do a stream or maybe just a video about that. Um, um, yeah, okay. I guess I will bring it to a conclusion now. I'll stop rambling. Thanks for watching, whether you're watching now. I don't think anybody is, but maybe you'll catch this later. Maybe you'll find it interesting. Maybe you'll have some suggestions for me on how I might improve upon this method. I also I also just picked up a book I want to read. I have already forgotten the title. I downloaded it on my Kindle like an hour ago, but it is on this topic, and this is why I chose to do this as a stream right now, because I want to read that book, find other ideas in there, perhaps incorporate those, and then after I've internalized those, made some progress, maybe I'll do another stream, just kind of to show myself how I've progressed over time. All right, I'm gonna call it a stream. Thank you for joining me either now or later, and hopefully I'll see you again.